The last rail turntable in Manitoba is in Dauphin. However, it is scheduled to be removed from its current location on Jackson Street in the western Manitoba city. The city of Dauphin owns the parcel of land. The city's mayor, David Boziak, says the turntable needs to be removed for their public works crew and also for safety reasons. The Dauphin Rail Museum has been fighting to save the historic turntable and keep it in its current location. Jason Gilmore is the president of the Dauphin Rail Museum and joins me now. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Tell us more about the fight to save the turntable. Why is the museum trying to save it?
Well, it really goes into our statement of purpose. It's to preserve, interpret, and present the rich railway history of Dauphin and Parkland. So when you look at that first word in our statement of purpose, it goes without saying. So given its history and really the trio that we have in Dauphin with a Manitoba Heritage Building, the station, the museum that I'm sitting in currently, and then having the turntable and roundhouse dating back to 1906, there's very few communities probably in all of Canada that has that trio. Mm-hmm. So it's very important.
I want you to describe for our listeners who have never seen or heard of the rail turntable before, kind of describe it. What does it look like?
So it harkens back to the steam locomotive era. So steam locomotives were a lot more labor intensive. So water, coal, they would get dirty. So basically from Winnipeg, this was the furthest they could go without needing more maintenance repair. So Dauphin was an important hub in that regard. So the device itself, it allows a steam locomotive to park. The device would turn the locomotive full 360 degrees. So if they needed to turn the locomotive in an opposite direction, it would allow you that. But also adjacent to that turntable is a 15-stall roundhouse dating from 1906, and that's the current City Public Works shops. Mm-hmm. And though that building back then would have 15 stalls to maintain, repair the steam locomotives.
What is the historic significance behind the turntable?
Well, getting back into the moniker that we've used, the first train arrived here in 1896. Canadian Northern Railway, which became Canada's third transcontinental railway, is basically born in Dauphin, and really harkening back to this year being the 60th anniversary of the Canadian National Ukrainian Festival. A lot of the immigration pattern that went from Winnipeg through Dauphin to Saskatchewan, Alberta, all passed through Dauphin. So just an extremely important location historically.
What kind of talks has there been between the museum and the city to try and preserve the turntable?
So I've been president for 6 years. I would say over the last 3 or 4 years, I've made attempts both through Fort Dauphin Museum and the city to try and obtain that property and get it under the umbrella of our lease with the city. The story's a little bit convoluted because the museum here did not come to fruition until 2002. So in 1993, there were 17 community members that got together, raised money, purchased the turntable site from Canadian National Railway to preserve it for historical aspects. The city then purchased it, leased it to Fort Dauphin Museum, but once again, with the understanding to preserve this site in perpetuity. So that's, from my stance, that's what I know so far.
Okay. Now, we had a chance to chat with Mayor David Boziak, and he told CBC that the city has given the museum a chance to have their say on what happens and options on where to move it. How do you respond to that?
So we had, I don't think that's a fair characterization. We had one in-person meeting, basically informing us the intent was for full removal. So there was no, this has been ongoing, and that's, as I said, 3-4 years ago, trying to get clarity, and it was just kicking the can down the road, frustrating. So the one-person meeting we had indicating the full removal, we did give a counter proposal, and this is the take-home. Always been very respectful of knowing that's an active work site. When we send visitors to that site, it's on weekends, evenings. We're not sending people there during working hours. So totally understanding that. But we did give a counter proposal that we thought checked both boxes of keeping that heritage piece in situ, which is what maintains its historical value, but then also giving the city more room to do their work.
The city plans to remove this turntable. So what happens now? Where does the museum go from here?
So in lieu of that initial meeting, I said, okay, let's show it's not just a local historical artifact. We got letters of support from across the country, from historical associations and rail associated organizations, showing the historical value of that site and artifact. And then more recently, because then we were informed, it took 3 months to get the response from the city indicating we have convened and discussed your proposal. We're still going to fully remove the turntable. So even in the process of the discussion, out of respect, we would ask that, the verbiage used was to have the site function better. Once again, wanting to partner and work and understanding it's a work site, give us the exact reasons. Maybe we'll understand a little bit further. But we have started an online petition just to show that people care about this site. And really it gets into those people that took their money in 1993 to purchase that site for historical value. And I just recently conducted an interview with one of the direct descendants, Michael J. Pocatello, his granddaughter, that lives in Alberta. And when she found out about this through social media, she was not happy because the intent was to have that remain there.
Mm-hmm. Jason, I really do appreciate you joining us on the show today to explain more about this. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much.
Jason Gilmore is the president of the Dauphin Rail Museum.